as Propagate This Light would say, rock steady.
You're now in tune with life coach Norma Edwards.
I'm a near-death experiencer, and at the age of 26, I experienced a near-death due to a medical emergency. It happened in London, St. Bartholomew's Hospital. I was rushed there, and I was in extreme pain, and it necessitated me being rushed to the emergency room and then into the operating room. And while I was there, I found myself looking down at my body from the ceiling. But what was interesting about that is when I was admitted, I was in excruciating pain. Only now I'm looking down at my body and I am in perfect peace and tranquility. And I'm watching doctors and nurses scurrying around trying to respond to the emergency situation. At that point, I thought it would only be too fair that I get down on the floor and let them know that I was completely pain-free and in a very pleasant and beautiful place. Except when I attempted to engage the doctors and the nurses, nobody, it seems, could see me. Of course, I was baffled by this. And then I watched myself flatline. When I flatlined, I looked at the gauge, and the thought in my head was, I don't understand how I could be in two places at the same time. I'm also taking a look at the fact that I flatlined and wondering how could that be. So then the doctor took up what I call the paddles. And from where I was observing it, I could see the amount of electricity that those paddles held. And the thought in my head was, if I don't get out of this room in a hurry, they will probably kill me by mistake. And with that thought, I found myself moving through the ceiling and out into a very dark tunnel. It was interesting to note that I was not at all afraid. And I'm moving very swiftly through this tunnel. And I come around a corner, and there is the end of the tunnel. And before me, I could see this phenomenal kaleidoscope of light. And as I entered the exit of the tunnel and I merged with a kaleidoscope of light, everything became pure, crystal clear, white light. I have to tell you that there are no words that I can find in any language to begin to describe the joy, the beauty, the love, the comfort that I felt when it seemed to me that I had merged with the white light. The next thought in my head was, how does one get around in this environment? So I found myself moving. Again, I'm moving. I'm very aware that my feet is not touching the ground. And I found myself, I came to a screen, large screen. And when I stopped, the screen lit up and it showed me 3 columns. The left column was my life as I had lived it in the 26 years that I had been on earth. In the left column was my life as I had planned it before I came to earth. In the middle column was my life as I had lived it the 26 years that I had just left. And I'm amazed. I am absolutely amazed because I'm doing this assessment, but I'm not judgmental at all about it. I am more amazed than anything else that I could have planned, developed such an intricate plan, but had not done anything to fulfill that plan. And so the screen began to move, and as the screen moved, I'm beginning to review experiences that I have had in my 26 years of life. And again, non-judgmental, there's no judgment. If anything else, I'm amused. Only now, when I look at how I have lived it, I am very aware that it does not resemble at all what it is that I wrote in the plan. But when I get to the 3rd column now, it's as though someone created a stamp. And the stamp said, objectives not accomplished. And with each row, I can see what it is I set for myself. I could see how I lived it. And then in the column, the last column, objective not accomplished. So I reviewed the 26 years of my life. And I noted the fact that I had not made too much progress. I had made progress by the world's standards, but I had made no progress at all in executing what I had said. Screen came to an end, and when it came to an end, there was a question that I had carried in my head for 26 years, ever since I was a child. And it had to do with being raised in a Christian community and this concept that Christ came and he said, I came so you can have life and have it more abundantly. And I could not get any pastor, I grew up in a Christian tradition, I could not get any pastor to even understand my question, never mind give me an answer, because I said, if he said that, how come people are still dying? And when the first review came to an end, that question popped into my head. And as the question popped into my head, the whole screen I was watching became larger. And as it became larger, I found myself transported now to 6 past lives that I had already lived. I'm experiencing it. I am feeling the emotions that go with what I am viewing. And I'm watching myself way back in the very, 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 very early days or days of Earth. The world is kind of like it's dark, and there are people walking around with flames, and how difficult it was to be a part of a tribe, and the number of tribal wars that there were. I found myself viewing myself at one stage in my growth and development in that lifetime, where the tribe I belonged to was losing. They were losing the war. And so they required that all the women and the children should be gathered together and put into the boats that they have and put out to sea in the hope that we would survive to be able to repopulate. I found myself in a boat with 23 other women and children, and the boat sank. And in witnessing or observing what took place, I could feel the absolute fear of the water and that experience of drowning. Then I moved from there to a place where there was war, excuse me, and I was one of the warriors, so that I experienced the deluge of war. And in those days, you know, you fought with knives and swords, etc., etc. And then I moved to a lifetime where the point at which Moses was taken out of the bulrushes. And I was among the women who were at the waterside and marveled at this baby in the basket in the bulrushes, and was part of the discussion as to what we should do with the baby, etc. And I moved from there, and I found myself in a much more, I would say, modern environment. That was the environment when Christ walked the earth. And I see myself being present when I saw myself being present when the disciples gathered. I found myself at the point when Christ has departed, and they are so much, disturbed by what has taken place. And then I come to this place where Paul is struck off of the horse and he is struck blind, and I can feel all of the emotions. And then I find myself at a place where I'm a child, and I am in the cotton fields with my mother, picking cotton, and I can hear the hooves of the horse with the master man on the horse, and he's moving in our direction, and I can hear the whip as it hits the back of the slaves who could not meet their commitment. And I feel the fear that when he gets to me as a child, I too cannot meet my commitment, and I'm feeling the fear of what it would feel like when that whip hits my back. And then suddenly the stream changes, and now I am the white male on the horse with the whip. Of course, it's not a lifetime, but it's kind of like showing me that we move from one extreme to the other. And what I took away from that review is that we live many, many, many different experiences over the many lifetimes that we reincarnate. The screen came to an end, and it's almost though the love and the light that I'm in has kind of canceled out all that fear. And I'm now brought to a river. And yes, when I was a child, I grew up in a Christian community. We sang a little hymn, "Yes, we will gather at the river, the beautiful river." We gathered at the river, and on the other side of this river were hundreds of souls. And I could feel from each and every one of them the love that they had for me. And I could feel their love radiating towards me. And my aunt, who was the most recent person in my family to have crossed over, she got into the water and she started moving towards me. But when she gets to me, she says to me, "I'm sorry, they will not allow you to cross. They're sending you back." And I said, "Well, why would they do that?" Because you see, by now I had come to recognize that I'm at home and I was perfectly at peace. And the experiences that I had just observed in the review were like experiences way back there in the distance, but now I was safely home, so I didn't want to leave. And she said, no, they're sending you back with a message. And I said, well, there are millions of people back there. Can't they find someone back there to give them that message? And I was told, no, the message is, there is more to life than meets the eye. Life is eternal. And with that, I found myself falling, and literally got slammed into my body. Moving away from that beautiful experience of love and light into a painful body was very, very difficult. And the journey here on earth began. One of the things that I actually attach as part of my near-death experience is how I felt once I entered the body. I entered the body, and there were two nurses, and they were sitting there, and their job was to observe me in my recovery. And the two nurses, it seemed, attended the same church. One went to church on the Sunday, and the other one didn't. And the other didn't. So the one is explaining the sermon, and the sermon had a lot to do with hell and damnation. And I'm lying there and I'm thinking, what in the world? How could a pastor be on a pulpit and teach something that doesn't exist? There is no hell, because you see, I had just determined that I had entered into hell when I returned back to my body. And so I can't speak because I've got tubes in my throat, but I am like outraged. So the explanation of the sermon comes to an end, and they turned on a little radio that was sitting on the table between them. And now classical music begins to emerge. And as I'm listening to the classical music and I'm watching, I could now recognize and see the notes emerging from the music. Every note is tied to a color. Every color is tied to a frequency. Every frequency is tied to a number. And I'm watching them absorb, naturally absorbing this energy that's coming out of music. And I'm amazed, because nobody ever told me that for example, music has this amazing healing power, and these are part of its properties. And then from there, I was taken into a ward, and I recognize now that I can see what's wrong with the people. I could see inside of the patients. I even remarked to myself that there was a nurse, and she was so keenly, working so keenly with her patients. But it seemed to me she did not know that she was carrying cancer, because I could see in the body. So I came back with what I call extremely intensified senses. I could hear things, I could see things, I could almost tell what people, what they're thinking, things that they worry about, and I find myself kind of sending light that this too will pass. So that getting back into the body and getting back into living in the natural, what we would call the natural world here on earth, was extremely difficult. Now, you have to understand that I had this experience in the 60s. I did not even have a name for it. And so I shut my mouth for 15 years. I did not speak about it for 15 years. And then the first person I told was my mother at the point of her transitioning. Now the journey of living with heightened senses has begun. It leads to isolation, because even if you speak about what you're experiencing, people cannot understand it. I began to become aware that the Christian religion, and I'm still a Christian, and the Christian religion has built a phenomenal tower of fear that has to be overcome before we can really open ourselves up to spirituality. And so the journey began. And over the next 20 years, 8 spiritual teachers came into my life. And I began to grow and expand the knowledge and the use of the senses that had been given to me. But my primary intention was and always will be finding truth. I am normal. That's the story of the beginning of my search to find the truth. Now I know you have many questions, and I'd like to think we can engage a few of these questions as we go along. So feel free to send me your questions. I want to thank Propagate This Life. It's a beautiful, beautiful statement, because I know that there are thousands and thousands of us. There are thousands of us who still haven't got the courage to talk about it, and we have to support them and help them so that they can find their voice to give to the world the experiences that they have had. Now, do you have any questions?
Beautifully spoken. I like that. How have you been doing?
I have been doing just fine. For an old lady, I'm doing fine.
Okay. Yeah, so I have a question. When you were talking about the planet was dark and they were using torches.
Torches. Mm-hmm.
So there was no sun at that time?
I don't know, but it was dark. It was dark. It was very dark.
And so you feel that were you there long enough to know if that was a consistent thing? They were using torches?
No, you see, because they were giving me flashes that were relevant to what they wanted me to understand. You see what I'm saying? I wasn't there long enough to do. All I know was that they were walking around with these torches, and so did I. And the memory that I left with is darkness.
Do you have any anything happen to where you knew about dinosaurs or anything like that, or prehistoric creatures or anything?
No, I didn't see any of those. No.
Okay. Okay.
You see,
Well, yeah,
the second review was at the Akashic Record. The Akashic Record is where there's a record of the Earth and the planets and every single human being. And it's there in its natural form. You know, when we tell our story, well, there was pain, there was joy, or I was depressed, etc. But when you go to the Akashic Record, you see it like it is. This is what you planned. This is how you lived it. This is the experience that you have come out with. And this is what your plan was before you came to Earth. So you better get busy and fulfill the plan.
So it shows you like different possibilities that has already happened or that ever will happen or something like that?
No, you see, before we came to Earth as a soul, we planned what we will do when we get here. It's no different like going to college. I know some students go to college and don't have a clue what they want to do, and then they very quickly get slammed into shape. But it's like you're coming to Earth, and then you're going to review Earth's records. You're going to review the records that you have on the lives that you have lived. You will see what is missing. It's like, for example, if you go to college and you started off and you wanted to be a business major, and then you somehow fell in love with chemistry and decided you want to become a doctor. You know now that you will have to reschedule redo your schedule, because there are different courses that you have to take so that you can eventually become a doctor, because you kind of wake up to the fact that while you are going to need some business management, that's not going to help you as a doctor. Well, it's much the same when you decide to take another lifetime on Earth. Well, I've got this under my belt, I got this under my belt. I'm going to have to subdue this one over here so that I can get the experiences that will allow me to become or to fulfill my purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Does that have something to do with, like, as you evolve, you start to lose the people that were in your life somehow, some way, friends or whoever?
Think about it. Even in our daily life, I'm sure you could think of the people you went to school with. You went to school with people, and you became maybe very ambitious, and you may have decided, well, I want to be an engineer. Well, none of your friends want to be engineers, so after a while, your interest in engineering is going to mean that you're going to fall away from each other, apart from each other, because you don't have the interest in the same things. Does that make sense? As we grow spiritually, yes, we are no longer interested in making money. We're no longer interested in getting rich. At least I'm speaking for myself. And so therefore, you grow up with friends, and that is still their interest. And, you have nothing to talk about. So yes, you become lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Because your interest is a lot deeper than the people you were hanging with before. And you can't even blame them, because they really can't understand you. You're not understood anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have a question here by Mandela Mile. Are you able to see the screen?
Do you think the torches were wings lit up? No, they were torches to provide light.
Okay.
They held them, above their heads so that they can see where they're going.
Okay. So I'm trying to understand that part, wings. What does that mean?
I don't know what the person means by that. Do I think they were wings lit up? No, they were just torches. In our everyday life, we walk into a house and we flip a switch and we get electricity. They didn't have electricity. The only way they could see their way around is a torch. And there's still places on the planet where you go in caves and people use torches. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. We have another question by Amanda Nicole.
Oh. Did seeing your records impact your decisions in this life? Yes, it did. Yes, it did. When I looked at my record, I saw that I needed more compassion. And the best way to inculcate compassion is, who feels it, knows it, Lord. And so I designed a lifetime where I could experience what it is that other people going through trauma, etc., what it is they're experiencing. And what I did right into that program was 27 years working with prisoners in prison. And boy, did I learn a lot. So we don't write the program based on what we think is important in life. We write the program because there are pieces missing in our lives. You see, when we are finished with our many incarnations on this earth, many of us are on track to become members of teams that will be responsible for planets. Earth is the best school there is in the universe. And it is difficult. Like any other school and any college you attend and you want to get a degree, it is going to challenge you. Earth is a school that is designed to challenge us. And while we are here, we are challenged. And as we come out of the challenges, we learn. I learned from working with prisoners what it is that humanity is really, really facing. I learned what humanity needs. I learned the absolute power of love and how love can overcome the tragedies of life. But I wrote that into my program so that I can feel it, not just read about it. Does that make sense? So we write a program that allows us to feel and to experience. And you have to understand that since life is eternal, I want you to listen to this carefully. We never die. We get rid of the space suits we call a body, and we go back into being light beings, beings of love, until we need another set of experience. And then we take on the physical body again, and we come into existence. I hope that answers your question, Nicole.
Wow, so we were talking a little bit backstage, and you said there's a line of souls.
Oh,
Liter-
God, yes.
they're literally in line waiting. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Thousands. We're here complaining about Earth. There are thousands of souls patiently waiting for their time to enter the college called Earth. And if you can ever get a glimpse of that, you'd wake up in the morning and say, "Thank you, Lord, I actually got in." It's like trying to get into Harvard, you know?
Right. Yeah, I was telling you also that there's been people talking about lines. I've had there's a person that was close to me that passed away twice. So when they came back the first time, they said they were in a graveyard and there was a line there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's another person that I know by the name of Juanito. Sometimes he comes by. He said he was out of his body once, and there was a line of souls by his bedroom window wanting to connect with him.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes,
So,
and when I came back, there were a lot of those. You know, there were a lot of those. Everybody wants to connect with you, and I'm like, I'm not interested. Yes, I have clairvoyance and I have clairaudience, but I'm not interested in using that right now. I need to find out. My biggest thing was, who am I? Because you see, I woke up that morning and I had a certain sense of belief and understanding. And before midnight, that had changed. And when I came back with a whole different level of consciousness. So my interest was, I need to find out who I am. And that led to a self-discovery that took about 7 years of my life.
Okay, so we have a question here by Mandela Mile. Do you think we come back here immediately later, or later?
It depends on your growth and development. Sometimes when we get to the other side, that's what I observed, some people get the opportunity, ask for the opportunity to work as a guide to someone here on earth. You see what I'm saying? And that is a program that is written that they become a spiritual guide to someone here on earth, so they can learn by way of that person. And then other people like myself get turned back like, who gave you the idea that we're ready for you? That was the feeling I got. You might think you're ready to stay, but we're not ready for you. So the circumstances determine whether you spend some time on the other side or whether you get reincarnated straight away.
Okay, speaking of reincarnate straight away, Katina Birdcage has a question. Are you talking about reincarnate, Norma?
Yes.
There's one question that I have for you. Do you know anything about coming into the body, but you're coming in through the pineal gland or something like that? Have you heard of any?
Some people come in that way. Some people want to go through the process of birth. Other people don't want to go through the process of birth. You have an option.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell the people what happens when you take your own life? I didn't know this at first.
When you take your own life and you find your way back to the other side, whatever amount of time you still had, you will have to come back and experience it. Let's say, for example, you were dying of cancer and you just couldn't take it anymore. Or you were sick with cancer, you couldn't take it anymore. and you commit suicide. But you had 3 months more to live. You will be put in a body of a baby that is born and lives for 3 months. You got to live the whole life experience that you planned.
That is interesting. I think this next question goes with what you said. You have to relive the life. Mandela Mile asks, do you think we come back to the same families ever?
Not the complete family. Because you see, you have to understand, while we're living this life, the family we have is the most important thing, and we know them and we love them. Let me take you to my near-death experience when I was on the other side. There were over 300 people beaming life to me, love to me. Those were people that were part of a family that we grew up in. See what I'm saying? So when you get to the other side, you'll discover that, hey, you had this family, this last family was wonderful. You get to the other side and you discover there are 400 or 500 members of families that you've been a part of. You see, so it's very, very rare. I don't think you get the whole family. You may get 1 or 2 members who choose to come back with you, but I don't think you get put into the same family because you won't learn too much. The whole experience is about learning and growing.
Oh, that's very cool. You're good with segueing to the next question. Mandela Mouse says, so accidents are no accidents?
There are no accidents. There are no accidents. You wrote it the way you wrote it.
So the one thing I'm confused about is contracts. Is there like a soul contract where it literally making on the other side before we're here?
No, you write the program. That's the contract. You write your contract. This time around, I'm going down to earth, and believe it or not, I've had so many past lives that have been so serious. I've been a scientist, I've been a doctor, I never had any pleasure. So this time around, I'm going to write the program, but when I go down to earth, I'm going to have just fun, 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 fun. And that's okay too. And then the poor parents of that child who is born into that family. Let's say you're born into a family where everybody's got a purpose or has got a career, but you just came in to have fun, fun, fun because you have already given to the world, to the universe, a whole lot of who you are. You see what I'm saying? You write the program to experience what it is that is missing in your portfolio. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Mandela Mile back again with another one. Thank you. Why weren't we all born with wisdom?
Mother Earth is intended to be the school to give us wisdom. That's why we're here. Experience teaches wisdom. Adversity gives you wisdom. Does that make sense? And many of us who are born, and to other people and even to ourselves, we feel we do not have wisdom. Yes, we have wisdom. Now we're going to talk about the consciousness levels. You have a consciousness level where you can access whatever you need to access. That's on the surface. You have an unconscious level where there's stuff that you don't want to deal with right now. You kind of shove it in there, you know. And then you have the supraconsciousness level. And the supraconsciousness level is the place where you package and you store information that you are not going to access while you're walking this earth. So many people who you see are walking the earth pretending they don't have any wisdom. They store their wisdom away so they can maybe come back this time around and experience it from another angle. Am I making sense? And somebody's asking, so where do we go when we have all this wisdom? We move on to the next assignment. And the next assignment may be becoming a part of a team, as I said, who's going to be responsible for managing a planet or planets. Does that make sense?
Amanda Nicole says, yes, makes sense.
I am so glad that she thinks I make sense. Because you see, I used to watch Star Trek. And I had to stop watching Star Trek. You know why? Because whoever wrote Star Trek had to have had near-death experiences. Because it is absolutely true. So if this is hard for you to believe, go back and look at an old Star Trek episode. And one of the things you will notice with them as a team on that spaceship, they don't argue. I know the modern ones now is like doing for your entertainment. They don't argue, they don't fight, they have respect for each other, and they understand each other's role, and they can work perfectly together. Well, it's the same thing. And in order for us to be able to work perfectly together, as souls to work perfectly together like that, you've got to go through some experiences so that you walk in the moccasins of somebody, for instance, who grew up without love, or somebody, for instance, who was pushed to violence. Because that's the place from which compassion comes.
Okay, yeah. So I heard you say this on the one of your other on another channel. You were saying that even the people that are in our life that we try to stay away from, they're there for a purpose.
Oh yes, this one is interesting. And some
Okay.
people cannot agree with me on this one, but it's true. The person who, when I work with people, for example, in self-discovery, I have them tell me, who are the people in your life that are loving, and who are the people in your life who maybe did not show you love, etc., etc. And the reason for that is, do you realize, I ask this question when I'm doing self-discovery, identify for me one or two people in your life that has really made your life miserable. Who are these people? And how did they do that? Well, I'm here to tell you that is probably one of the souls who love you the most and has walked with you and noticed that you don't seem to be able to change or make any advancement when there's a lot of love around you. So you may very well have asked that person, because I know you love me, you do anything for me. When we get down there, I want you to be the devil's advocate in my life. And I don't want you to give up until I get it. And then it's very interesting when you can travel, when you see these souls meet, when, one passes, they pass and they meet on the other side, and it's like, ooh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You did a wonderful job. Because sometimes all the love in the world we don't allow the love to help us. And so if we won't allow love to help us and to guide us, then adversity kicks us in the butt and we have no choice but to learn. Am I making sense? Because that is hard, I know, for some people to understand. The people who seem to hate you the most may have very well been the people who loved you enough to descend here with you and play the role, because it's only a role, of devil's advocate in your life, so you can get it.
Mm.
He says,
Man, I like what you have to say about this, because it makes a lot of sense. As Amanda said earlier, it makes a lot of sense to me. The out of body. Can we go back to that a little bit? The
Okay.
near-death experience. So, some people will say that reality. I've heard people say that there's two different realities emerging. Do you know anything about that? Did you get anything when you were out of body about that?
You see, our reality is life on the other side. This is a dream. This is illusion. This is not real. Am I making sense? What we're living here is an illusion. And when you cross the veil and you feel absolutely comfortable, you feel absolutely enfolded in love, you know you are home. And then you look, when they force you back into that body and you get back here, you're like, why? Why? But the answer to it is, you still got lessons to learn. This is not the real world, you know. One of the things I say, and some people have a hard time understanding it, the truth of the matter is, I was born in British Guyana, and I carried a British passport. That's how I was identified. I left Guyana and I went to England, my first husband, and that's where I went to school, etc., etc. While I was there, British Guyana became a nation, and then I carried a British passport. I'm sorry, I carried a Guyanese passport. I started out with a British passport, then I carried a Guyanese passport, and then I left England, went back to Guyana. I left Guyana and I came to America. I've been living in America for 48 winters. That's how I count it. But I don't see myself as an American. I'm a child of light. I belong to the kingdom of God. That's my home. I'm here at school. And who considers your school experience, your college experience, as who you really are? Now, that's something to chew on and a little bit of food for thought. This is not our home. This is illusion.
Mm-hmm. Well, if reality is an illusion, does that mean that it's fluid?
We are energy fields that have rhythmic patterns, that have frequencies, and that's who we are. And we take on a body much like an astronaut. An astronaut going out into space for whatever length of time knows he's got to put on that suit. Knows that when he is in the aircraft, he can take off the suit. But if he's about to step out on the soil, he has got to put his suit back on, because that's the suit that keeps him alive. Our souls are who we are, and our souls have a rhythmic pattern. It has a frequency that can be identified not only here but on the other side. And so we step into this body, and the body is equivalent to us as the spacesuit is to the astronaut. But then when the astronaut comes home and that vehicle splashes into the water, what's the first thing he does? He takes off the suit and he discards it. Because while he's here, he doesn't need it. Does that help you to answer the question?
Right. Yeah, it does, definitely. So that would mean that, okay, so where we're at here, and if reality is an illusion and we're using our bodies as the suits or the vessels or whatnot,
to learn a lesson or two.
Right. But is reality in of itself, the reality that we're a part of, is that interchangeable? So let's say, for instance, an item, a product has a name, and then you go back to that product and the name is a little bit different, but it looks the same, but it's different. Is that possible?
It's a different kind of illusion. Just a different kind of illusion. Different state of illusion. Who we are pieces of the universe. The same stuff that made the stars made us. The same stuff that made the ocean made us. We're made up of oceans. We're made up of stars. We're made up of earth soil. We are made up of energy. We are made up of water. We are made up of air. That's who we are. And we spend this temporal time on a planet that isn't ours, so that we can get some information, learn some lessons, and go back and function in the spirit level at a higher level. Earth is not our home. And Earth is an illusion. Like, for example, when we walk on earth, we are male, we are female, and now everybody's getting all uptight about who's gay and who's not. The spirit has no identity, that kind of an identity. You're a spirit, period. You're a spirit, you're love, your energy. That energy carries a tremendous amount of love, carries a tremendous amount of compassion. That's who you really are. But you jump into this suit called a body, and you spend some time and you learn some stuff, and you go back and you evaluate where you can fit that learning into your next assignment, and that's what it is. I don't know. See, to me, I see it, feel it, and experience it because I travel. I feel it, see it, and experience it quite naturally. But to some people, they have a hard time understanding that.
Right. They have to be on the kind of the same page.
But you have to awaken, you see. That's what my goal in the world is. I had a near-death experience, and it shook me awake to reality. And my job now is to shake people awake so they too can wake up to the reality without having to go through the sickness and the death and the accident, etc., etc. Once we wake up from the illusion that we're in, then we can really step back and laugh at ourselves.
Oh, really? Right. When you watch that big screen. So the screen.
Humongous screen. I still haven't seen a screen that big in the world.
Right.
We haven't gotten there
Right.
yet.
And so you're able to. It had columns, and you're able to. You said the being waved its hand, and it went to another part of the screen, or
No,
or
it
something.
just scrolled. It's just scrolled.
Scrolled.
And it would stop.
Right.
And when it stopped, I'm looking at a portion of my life in that particular era. And obviously there's a lesson there that I have to take away with me. You see what I'm saying? And then it starts scrolling
Right.
again.
Right. Right. Some more people came in. So just to let you know offhand, this is Miss Doctor Norma, Coach Norma, Coach Norma. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And she's talking about her near-death experience. So that's what we're. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and pop it in. We'll all conversate. And so people right there. Okay, so Mandela Mao asks, "Is this a dream just for us or for everyone?" So is there like a collective consciousness, or are you a dream character in my dream?
Whew, that's a triple dose question. But first of all, yeah, this is like a dream. It is. It's not real. It's not reality. Believe you me. The fact that we live on a planet where there's so much hatred, it's when you get out of body, it's unfathomable. How can people live like that? Because we are beings of light. We are beings of love. Our soul doesn't know anything else but love. But we descended here so we can have some experiences. And a lot of the time, as I said, we are members of, we will graduate to being members of teams that will be responsible for, do you know how many planets there are out there? I mean, we can't see them, so we assume they're not there, but they are. And you know how many souls there are, civilizations living out there. We can't see them, so we assume they don't exist. But this is the dream. The way
Yeah, there's a
truth
song.
and the light.
Right. Let me get that back on the screen. You know that song, "Life is but a dream." You know, we sang it when we were younger.
It is, and you will wake up from a dream. You will wake up from a dream, and when you wake up, you will find yourself in beauty and love and light and grace. And while you're enjoying that, sometimes they let you enjoy that for a while, and you get tapped on the shoulder. I saw in my review the moment when I was tapped on my shoulder when I was on the other side, and I was told it's time to create a new life, and I was not very happy. It took many guides, many guides to really encourage me to make the trip, and I was quite clear that I didn't want to do it. And there was this one particular guide who came forward and said, well, I'll make a deal with you. If you agree to establish another lifetime, I will be there to help you. And that was the agreement. And we came to Earth, and he manifested as a male, and he never showed up in my life until 3 years before he was ready to die. And when he came, he changed my life completely, helped me to understand all this stuff that I had gathered from my near-death experience. And then he went home. I see a question there, an NDE is what? An NDE is a near-death experience. It means that the individual is in some kind of a trauma. It might be an accident. It might be a medical emergency. For me, it was a medical emergency. I had a dead baby inside of me for 4 months and did not know I was pregnant, and they had to get it out of there to save my life. A near-death experience is when you have gotten to that page where you leave, the spirit leaves the body, and a doctor may say, well, you're flatlined. They cannot find a heartbeat. But now, because we have the ability and we have the equipment that would kind of like shake the body and spark the body back to life, this is why we have so many near-death experiencers. Because we died for a while, and then they applied all that electricity to our heart, and they brought us back. And so we're termed near-death experiences. I don't know why they say near-death, because we die. We die, and had it not been for the science that humanity has produced, we would have gone on to the other side and be here no more. But we now have scientific equipment that can shock the body back, and very often will bring us back. So that's why we're called near-death experiencers. But where did we go in the time that we did not have a heartbeat? What did we experience? And can we remember it when we come back? I hope that answers the question.
Man, oh man. Wow. Wow, there's so the I said that earlier in the chat too, like wow. The Akashic records, now I heard that the look of it looks kind of like a Roman type of look.
It's a Roman Colosseum. Absolutely right. You get drawn to this Roman Colosseum with these huge pillars. Well, now you can imagine how big the screen is, because the screen is attached between the pillars. Humongous screen. But yes, it's like a Roman Colosseum. Whoever said that, they're right. They're correct.
Wow, that is something else. There's no plugs hooked up to the screen. It's just...
Oh no, we still messing with that. We think we have arrived electronically. We're nowhere near that.
Right.
But you had a question when we had the initial conversation about this conversation here tonight, and I found that question very, very very interesting. Would you like to ask it? Because I want to hear it in your own voice.
My question. What was the question?
You can't remember the question now.
There's so many.
We drink a cup of forgetfulness.
Oh yeah. Okay, yes. So you said that we drink the cup of forgetfulness. That's a quote that you said on another stream. Now,
that's correct.
When does that actually happen? When does that actually happen? If that makes sense.
It happens on the other side when you have put the plan together. You sealed the plan. The plan has to be sealed. The original is left above. That's what is meant by that ancient saying, as above, so below. You left the original plan above you, and you have come down below you to live it. And your real prayer should be, as I've written it above, so may I live it below. And then Jesus came along and he expanded that statement a little bit more for us when he says, thy will be done on earth as it is decreed in heaven. But when do we drink the cup of forgetfulness? We have, there's an article I have out there, and it talks about coming to earth is like going on a trip. And I think if you go up on my website, www.reprogramyourlife.org, you will see that article. Because then after we've designed the plan, now we have to get ready. We got to pack for the journey. And let's say you've had 100 lifetimes. That's a lot of memories. You can't afford to come into this lifetime remembering all that stuff. You really would be compromised in living what you just planned. Can you feel that? So after you have packed your bags and said, okay, this amount of information, I will leave it so it can be streamed in my subconscious. This amount of information goes to the superconsciousness, which will never be opened while I'm in this life. And this amount of information has got to be like my daily living, and that will be easily accessible. And when you look at the plan and you see how you have divided it and how you have decided how you will work it, then we turn and drink the cup of forgetfulness. And the cup of forgetfulness makes sure that the stuff in the super consciousness will stay there while we are here on earth. Because it's too much. It will get in the way of our accomplishing what we came to accomplish. Does that help you to understand it?
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. That definitely makes a lot of sense. I mean, because if I'm here recalling everything even before I was here, it'll just be too much to handle.
Too much to handle.
You know. Now, do you know? So if I ask a question that you don't have the answer for, that's fine. I'm just asking, just to see what you have to say, if anything else. But do you think that what's called the past, does that actually still exist, or it just doesn't exist no more?
Oh, every single notion, every single thought, every single action is in the Akashic record. Yes, it does exist. And we tend to go to the Akashic record when we are going to write the next program for the next life. Oh yes, it's very real.
So we're actually like planning out our life at the Akashic Records location before we come down to Earth?
No. We go to the Akashic record to see what we have accomplished. What have I done? What have I failed to do? What is there in the record that needs to be accomplished? What did I start in life number 39 that never got finished? Okay, in this lifetime I'm setting now, I'm going to put that piece in there. Because sometimes we experience stuff that is so dramatic and so heavy that we put it away in the superconscious, because it takes a couple of lifetimes before we can come back and finish the assignment. You see what I'm saying? So the Akashic record is used much like, let's say, in college, they use your record of your grades, etc., to determine whether you can move from one grade to another, whether or not you will graduate or not, or whether or not you'll have to do another science course in order to be graduate. You see what I'm saying? The Akashic record holds the records of everything that has happened. And you go there so you can see what you've accomplished. I've accomplished that. Don't need to do that again. Don't need to replicate that. Oh, wait a minute. There was this concept I started and I never finished it. And my portfolio will not be complete until I finish it. So in this lifetime, I'm going to engage this. So that's what the Akashic record is used for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So a reality is an illusion. This is a dream.
And you go home. And you go home
right.
At the end of the dream.
Right. Well, it makes sense to me that this will be regarded as, because I've been out of my body as well. Mm-hmm. So over there, from my perspective, it seems more real than what's here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think that one is more willing to say that this is the dream. It's kind of like, okay, over there, they're saying that this is the dream, kind of like, so to speak. Like, if you're over there, you will say this is the dream.
No, but if you're over there, you know the truth.
Right, right.
Yeah, when you're over there, you know the truth. When you're here, you're still following what somebody says. You know, one of the most powerful things that I was taught by one of my spiritual teachers, and that spiritual, I was a Christian and he was not. He was a Hindu. He says, if you are looking for the truth, you have to put away all. He said, take 3 months and take all of your books and put them away. And begin the art of being still before the Almighty. And allow Him to take you inside of you. Because you see, since you've lived many, many lifetimes and you've learned a lot, all that information is inside of you. And the best place to find the information is inside, not what somebody's version of it is on the outside. And so he required of me, he said, put all the holy books, stop reading holy books, put it away, get yourself a journal, and get into not, meditation. It's a cat that taught me how to meditate, really, really meditate, when I thought I knew how to meditate. Be still and know. Because all the information you're looking for is inside of you. And all that stuff that you're kind of like reading and what have you, and the doctrine and all of that, is according to some human being who wrote it according to the understanding of the world. Does that make sense?
And as always, amended.
Makes sense.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with the Bible. There's nothing wrong with the Quran. I'll give it to you this way. I have a daughter who has 2 children that are very far apart. When the one was going into kindergarten, the other one, she was graduating from high school. And the kindergartner called me one night and she says, Grandma, why won't my sister let me help her with her homework? Because she helps me with my homework. And every time she helps me with my homework, I get an A. So I would like to do the same for her. So I had to scratch my head now. How am I going to answer this question without this child feeling as if she's stupid, you see? So I put her to sit down and I said, well, you see, you just started school. You are now learning ABCs and how to make words and so on. You are not quite there at the science level. You can't understand what she's learning in science, therefore you can't help her. But the time will come when you will grow into and you will have the experiences and the knowledge to be able to help someone who needs the help. But it's the same with us in these holy books. If you're not living a spiritual life to gather the information from the inside, you are going to your interpretation according to the world's rules. Now, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And we have...
whether in fact you are reading a book that is very spiritual.
Right. I love that. Mandela Mile has a question for you. Now, there's people that claim that they could access the Akashic records. What do you think about that?
I can only go from my own experience, and my experience may not be the universal experience. I can go to the Akashic record now, and I can look at my own records. There are parts of my records that I will not be allowed to look at. It's just the way it's set up. I cannot go to the Akashic records and look at somebody else's records. Now, there may be people out there who can do that. I haven't grown to that stage. I go to the record to see about my own, and there are places where it's blank. I'm not allowed to see certain portions. But what I say to people is, we have something here on earth in the medical field called the HIPAA laws. You know the HIPAA rules? You can't go wandering around in somebody's medical file.
Yeah. Can you? How do you spell that? I've seen that spelled before.
HIPAA, HIPAA laws.
Okay.
Rules and laws. A doctor can, because the doctor, has got the credentials and so on and so forth to do that. But you and I can't go. Even my daughter is what, 40 years of age. I can't go looking at her medical records. They wouldn't let me. So I don't know how that works for other people, but I'm just saying there are parts of my own records I'm not allowed to see. But then maybe they have advanced more than I have. I don't know.
Okay, um, yes. You said it's HIPPA, right?
I think that's how it's spelled. HIPAA laws.
Okay, because I'm looking online right now and it's HIPAA.
No, I think that's something else. These are medical records. It's a rule in the medical industry that unless, for example, with me and my husband can see my record, I can see his record, but I had to sign off for that. See what I'm saying? But my daughter couldn't walk into the doctor's office and say, this is my mother and I need to see her records unless I've given permission, you see? But the laws out there are a whole lot more stringent. But some people may have advanced enough to be able to do that.
Okay. This is what I was looking at earlier. What do you think about that? Are you able to see it?
It's very, very, very fine. HIPAA, yeah, that is it. It's a federal agency that required the creation of national standards to protect sensitive patients. That's right. That's right.
Okay, so that's
And
actually
if you
the
think
correct.
those are stringent, the ones out there are even more stringent. Because the ones out there say that my husband can't look at my files.
Right, right. Okay, so it has 2 A's instead of 2 P's.
That's right. Yeah, that was my fault. Yeah.
Okay. Let me close that out. I just wanted to be sure. Okay. I could have sworn I've seen it with 2 P's before. But yeah, okay. Cool, cool. So we have a question here. Okay. This is a good question by Preliminal. Norma, are some souls here because they were causing trouble in the heavens?
There's no such thing as trouble in the heavens. There is no discord on the other side. None. You're living in light. People are here to fulfill the needs. Earth is a school. It is the best school in all of the universes. And when we are here, we learn sometimes from love and we learn sometimes from pressure and we learn sometimes from experiences. But the good news is we're not going to live here forever. There is no trouble on the other side. Everything is love. And if you can't adhere to love, you're put into a body, go back to that earth where you have to work this out. The other side is harmony, it's peace. That's the reason why people don't want, when I came back, I was depressed for 3 years. Didn't want to be here.
I could kind of understand the question from this perspective. There's this saying somewhere, I'm not sure if it's in the Bible, but when there was an uprising in heaven, I think that could kind of like be kind of the source of, there could be some chaos going on sometimes there or something like that.
Well,
if that makes any sense.
Now as near-death experiencers, we are being taken out there so we can experience it. What I'm saying to you is not what I believe, it's what I've experienced. It's love and harmony, and the minute you step out of the body, that's what you feel. This complete peace and this harmony, this lightness and this love, and that's what it is. And if there is somebody that you really, really hated and couldn't get on with, you're not likely to meet them on the other side. It's not going to happen.
Regarding the question that's on the screen, heavens, what is heavens? Because I've seen that in Genesis 1:1 in the King James Bible. I was always wondering what is heavens?
In my Father's house, there are many mansions. I have traveled so far to the 16th dimension, and they tell me I still haven't hit heaven yet. There are many, many dimensions out there. But, like God, we give him a name. Here on earth, everything has to have a name. So if it doesn't have a name, we give it a name. There is a space out there. It doesn't seem to have a name. We give it a name. We call it heaven. In my Father's house, there are many mansions. Many, 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 many mansions. I used to think like everybody else, there's 7 dimensions. Lord God Almighty.
Question for Mandela Mao: do you think exists?
You know, I like what you just did. I never use that word. That word and the D word, I don't use them. I am not remotely interested in whether they exist or what they do. Because I have learned spiritually, where you choose to place your focus, you get more of. I'm going to say that again. Any place where you choose to place your focus, you will get more of. We're creative beings, you know, very creative. Do you get me? Don't use those 2 words. Because think of it.
Right.
My name is Norma.
Right.
If I'm walking down the street and somebody goes, Norma, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and turn around to see who it is. You've got my attention, right? Why am I using those words? Because when I do, it's like, hello, here I am. You may have forgotten me, but here I am. You've got my attention. Don't use the 2 words. Don't study them. Not interested.
No, I definitely agree with you. That's why I did that, because I don't like to do that, you know. And that goes into what I wanted to ask you. God said, "Let there be light," right? It says that in the Bible. Now, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just trying to understand this. The English language did not exist then, our Old English. So why would God even need to say, "Let there be light"? That's English right there. English didn't even
English, but he
exist.
didn't say it in English. He didn't say
Right.
it in English.
Why
He
would
did not
God
say it
have
in
to?
English. Sound. He used sound. Sound is the absolute communicator. Absolute communicator. I do healing work with sound. I do healing work with rhythm. I do healing work because I understand that sound has got a better capacity of speaking to the soul than language. Language came into being, and whatever he said, whatever he hummed, had to be somehow passed on to us, and so it was passed on in English. But trust me, he didn't use English. He used some kind of rhythmic expression that eventually found its way in the English language till he said, "Let there be light." But light is the steward of creation. Did you know that? Love turns into light, and light is the steward of creation. They told me that on the other side.
So light is the store of creation?
It's the steward, steward, steward of creation.
Right.
You can't create anything unless there is light.
Right. Right. That's why they had the torches back then, so they can keep creating. Huh?
They had to see, believe it or not. They had to see in that darkness. We get used to flipping a switch. They had no switch to flip, and it was dark. So you lit a torch and you carried it with you, and it showed you the way, lighted the way. We didn't have street lamps then.
Right. No street light lamps. Yeah. So what about the phrase "God created the earth in 7 days" when days didn't even exist back then?
You have to understand that you are talking about the creative force. God is not a man. You're talking about the creative force with which all things are possible. I have had so many miracles I've seen in my life and in the lives of people that I've served that will blow your mind if I actually did a show on that. I have seen the impossible become possible. You're talking about the creator of all heavens, earth, every animal, every planet, with that kind of force and power, you can do a lot of things that people can't comprehend. because we have kind of like lost our way. We have the capacity, but we've lost our way.
Mm-hmm. And I'm happy he made it through, Amber. That's Amber's testimony right there. Yeah, yeah. And we don't really die, is what you're saying. So that's a good thing to know. Mm-hmm. Oh, and you said
I watched that. I see, like that story. Amber, thank you for sharing. After 45 minutes of pumping and 2 shocks, he was revived. It's that ability, that scientific ability that we've created that is allowing so many near-death experiencers to rise up and speak now.
Mm-hmm. Wow, how much more time do you have?
Well, I think it has been. I like the question. Did I choose to exist on this place? Yes, you did. Nobody forces you to do anything. I didn't get that last one. It flashed up.
Okay, let me get to it here. It's like someone was popping the soda back there.
Yes.
The last question is that this one right here. I guess this is what you see in the comment, I guess.
We're the light of the world. Mandela, thank you. But when we descend to this earth here, we kind of camouflage the light. You see what I'm saying? But yes, we are the light of the world. And the near-death experiencers who have come back, we have come back. We've absorbed a certain amount of that light and we have brought it back with us. And every now and again, I would run into people who don't know me from Adam, don't even know my name. And they would say, I could see your light. There's some people who can see it, you see. So there's a reason. There's a reason why so many people are now sharing their near-death experiences and are now moving into the healing fields with the light that they have brought back. And it's intended to help people to get past the towers of fear that have been created here in this world in which we live. That's a wonderful question, Mandela. Now, when I was 9 years of age, 9, mind you, I said to my pastor, I said, didn't Christ say, when he was here, that he was going to go up on a cross and die for sinners? He was going to pick some sinners and put them in a special category. He was going to die for sinners so they could be redeemed. Didn't God also said that, don't we get an understanding that God is the author of unconditional love? So at 9 years old, I wanted to know, well, my parents love me. You're telling me they can't love me as much as God loved me, but you're telling me that my parents couldn't possibly burn me up in hell, but this God that says he loves me unconditionally will? Something is wrong with that. When you experience the love on the other side, you understand that that love may send you back in a body so that you can work out what it is that need to be worked out. But there is no hellfire. I'm here to promise you. The hellfire is right here on earth. Unconditional love means just what it says. I love my children and my grandchildren unconditionally. There is nothing that they can do that will prevent me from loving them. I might not like what they do, but it's not going to stop me from loving them. God loves us unconditionally. And the payment for what we did might be, I'm going to find another body. And when you get into that body, you're going to have some harsh circumstances so you can learn the effects of what you did. And you live it out and you'll come back to me so I can love on you. That's God. So don't let anybody tell you that, some of us will go to hell. And oh no, God loves us all. He loves us enough. He loved us enough to redeem us. We have been redeemed. So the worst thing that is going to happen when you get to the other side is, well, son, there was 7 things you agreed to do. 6 of them you didn't do. I'm sorry, I got to send you back. You get sent back in the body. You get an opportunity to work it out. But there's no such thing as wording up in hell. Don't believe it. I'm a human being, and I just wouldn't have what it takes to do that to somebody. Why would somebody feel that a God who is loving and unconditionally loving us would do something like that? You get sent back in another body. You might have to experience some of the things that you did to somebody in a life before. See what I'm saying? So you can get it. But that's what I've come to know.
Okay, so earlier, speaking of earlier, let me get that on. Amber says, "Wish I had been here earlier." Oh yeah. Just- yeah,
But of course it will run. Wouldn't it run on the internet, this interview?
Yeah, it's on right now. We're live right now, and after we're done, it'll be on the channel. Yeah. And available for the public. Yes.
Available to the public to see, and I hope that they will take the opportunity. If you're listening to this broadcast right now live, please do encourage others to listen to get up on the internet and listen to it. I find that come back, she says. I find that I love that statement that you make. Put it back up there so they can see it. The statement that you make about do you think that we all go eventually, or we will all live forever in different environments on different planets, because we're eternal beings. We will never die. We change bodies, we change circumstances, but we are eternal. Never die. I love that statement, propagate this light. And when you say that, I hope that goes for every person that you interview. Because we have a message to give to the world. Each of us, we were sent back with a message to give to the world. And sometimes we get a little bit in despair because we have so much to give and not a whole lot of people want to hear it. And so this business of propagating the light, I really, really, really respect you for that. I honor you for that. And I ask the divine source to open up the way so that you can get this done, because there are thousands and thousands of us on the planet now, all over the world. And we are here to give to the world the light that we brought back. We didn't bring it back just for ourselves. We brought it to give it back to the world. And so your show is asking that souls out there will propagate the light. Say a prayer on behalf of us NDEs, because we run into people who, my God, you say, I had a near-death experience, and they get very offended or what have you because they don't understand it. So we do need your light and your blessings to help us to spread the word. And no, we don't come back as animals.
Because they're different souls, correct?
They're different on a different path. They have souls, but they're a different path.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got a couple of cats that hang around me, and they look at me sometimes like, I don't understand why you don't get it. So obviously, they are more intelligent than I am. But no, different pathways.
Okay,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity to have a conversation, because up until now I've been doing podcasts, and people can come in and I'm talking and people can come in and they can listen. But you have created a forum here where people can ask questions and get answers. And I have to tell you that each time a question comes up, my own guide is with me, and the words that you hear come out as the answer is kind of formulated by my own personal guide. We have guides. We were sent here with personal guides and angels to help us to direct the life and to recover from the, as my mother would say, the vicissitudes of life. But we do have angels around us, and there were many of them around me tonight. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. Can I ask you just one more question, or anybody?
Sure.
Okay, okay. Give me a second here. I want to understand why my. I'm just reading in the chat here. I'll just put it on the screen so we can all see it. My partner was brought back. So he had that moment where he was blown back body. Told me that he has one. Was told he was. Yeah. Yeah. So when you came back into your body, did you feel yourself slam back into your body?
I was slammed. Some people come in peacefully. They slam me in. And I mean, 1 minute I was peaceful. I was in this peaceful, beautiful state, and the next minute, excruciating pain. And at that point, it was like, I've got to find a way out of this body. It's not a nice place. It's not a pleasant place. But it's being, you know, it's not something I'm saying because I believe it. It's something I'm saying because I experienced it. Nowhere on this planet have I experienced the love that I experience out there. The joy, the peace. Somebody said, can't it be gentle? Well, maybe whatever I did, it warranted me being slammed back into the body. But I think it's because they knew I didn't want to come back, you know. So they had to make very sure when I got in, I got locked in. I couldn't leave. I love that. Couldn't it be gentle?
Right.
Maybe some people got placed gently back in. I didn't.
Oh yeah, let me just place you gently back into your body.
I did
You're
not
so special.
have that privilege. I did not have that privilege.
Yeah, but that's a good question though, because I actually felt that myself one time. It was like a boom, like you're hitting the concrete.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Oh yeah. Just in case you have any idea of diverting, you see.
Right. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it has been, I was 26 then, I'm 80 now. It has been a long journey. And ever since I come back, I've been asking, well, how much longer do I have to stay, you know? And recently I ran into a lady who's 104 years old. And I looked at her, she walked towards me, beautiful soul, and she says, I'm 104, and I gasped, because, you know, she looked much like I do. And she said, and if you don't believe me, later in the year, I'll be 105. And I walked away thinking, is somebody trying to tell me something? Because it's been a long journey from 26 to this, and found my purpose. And that was, they sent me into a prison, and that's another conversation you have to have me on about. They sent me, I kept asking, what is my purpose, what is my purpose? And they finally just said the one word, prison. I'm like, prison? What do you mean prison? I don't know anybody in prison. And then they say males. And I'm like, I'm a woman. Men don't listen to women. Why would they? 27 years of my life as a prison chaplain and providing music, using music as a therapeutic remedy for what was wrong with them. Thousands, hundreds of lives.
Yeah. Speaking of music, I think it was very also like what you said at the beginning. A lot of people are gonna rewatch it because they came in a little later. But in the beginning, you were speaking about seeing colors in music notes, and
yes.
you
Every
know,
note has a color. Every color is tied to a number. Every number is tied to a mathematical symbol, and it all flows in beautiful rhythm. And when you see it enter the body. It enters the body with the breath. Music is the best language of all to speak to the soul, the spirit, and the heart. And so I do a lot of work with
Right.
music. I don't do
Right.
talk therapy. I do music because music speaks louder to the soul than I can. Yes, I do. Somebody's asking a question there. I listen to all sorts of music and I spend an hour every day on YouTube because they tell me that every human being on the face of the earth has an alignment to a piece of music that is in the world. So I spend an hour every day sampling music. And when I work with people, I ask their guides to show me what their rhythmic pattern is because that is the quickest way you can get through to heal. So thank you very much, and I so
Okay.
appreciate the questions, being able to to have this podcast and this interaction, this conversation, so
Right.
we can talk. I feel like I've been talking to your audience rather than them just listening to me, and that was a privilege for me. Thank you very much. God bless your podcast, and
Right.
I'm sure that we will work together. I feel like we will work together. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Would you be interested in coming back some other time?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you for.
And then we can talk about how the things that happened after the near death experience, what happened after that, and how that affected the changes in my life, big changes, humongous. I'm not the human being I was 26 years ago. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Says
Thank you so
Nancy Watts
much.
from the beginning. Thank you.
Right.
God bless you, and may this video begin and expand your subscription on the internet. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. We'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you, everybody, for being in tune. Everybody, my Rabbit, Mandela, Mile, Amber, Go-Kart Bob's in here. Everybody. Thank you. Katina Birdcage. Thank you. And yeah, you the listener that's not in the chat. Thank you again. And we're going to bring her back. We're going to bring her back and get into some specifics. I had a lot more questions. She said her email's been broken because people been sending her questions. So I thought it was only right for give people a chance to reach out, on the live stream, in real time. I appreciate her knowledge and I appreciate y'all as well. All right. Peace out. Make sure y'all rock steady. Peace.